Spare 10 minutes, live a lifetime. As I stood outside the entrance to the underground passages, heavy rain falling upon the cobblestone road, ready to take part in the city's famous ghost tour amongst a group of about 20 to 30 people, I felt a sense of nervousness and excitement in the atmosphere. I'd arrived in Edinburgh that afternoon, traveling light, just enough clothes to last the night, and my camera, which had hung from my neck all day long, ready to snap up a piece of this beautiful historic city at any given moment. Throughout the day, I had took part in the type of activities you'd expect from a tourist in this city. Starting off with a visit to Edinburgh's zoo around midday, then off to the famous Edinburgh Castle that stood towering above the city on a hilltop at around 4 p.m. I probably didn't spend as much time admiring these amazing locations as I should have, but, with only the Sunday to take everything in before returning home for university the following day, I knew time was of the essence. Finally leaving the castle at 7 p.m. after a spot of lunch at the on-site cafe, I got onto a tour bus that brought the rest of the group to the start of the city's famous ghost tour. So here we all were, waiting for the tour guide to make an appearance and get the evening underway, when suddenly, there goes my phone ringing. Glancing down at the screen, I saw Mum flashing on the screen. "Hi," I said, picking up the phone. "Could you ring me back, Mum? I'm a little preoccupied right now and don't have much time." "Hey son, I'm just calling to see if you're okay. You know how worried I get if you don't call. Plus, it's always nice to spare a few moments for your old mum," she said. From birth until the age of 18, when I left home to study photography at university, I was never closer to anyone more than my mom. So I could understand her concerns, as I usually would make a note of contacting her on a Sunday. "I know, Mom, but I'm 18 now, you don't have to concern yourself," I replied reassuringly. "I'm up in Edinburgh at the moment. It's been quite a busy day, so it slipped my mind to get in touch. I'm just about to start the city's famous ghost tour." "It's okay, son," she said. "It's just good here you're okay. I'll let you get on with the tour. I feel you'll be safe now." "Safe now?" I laughed in confusion. "I'm sure I would have been safe even if you didn't call." "Hello?" I said as the line broke up. "Damn signal," I muttered, looking up from my phone. That's weird. Where's everyone gone?" I said to myself, looking at the empty entrance of the underground. They must have started the tour without me while I was distracted on the phone. I laughed, talking out loud this time. "I'm sure I can catch up to them though," I said, entering the gates in front of me that lead to a flight of descending stone steps. As I made my way down the 30 or so steps, I saw what looked like a distant gathering of people amongst dim lights and dust. "That must be them," I said, speeding up my pace into a fast walk. About 50 yards of fast walking down a narrow stone corridor, I was stopped dead in my tracks. Stepping out from a room to my left stood the shadow of a 6-foot man. To say I was terrified would be an understatement. My heart jumping into the back of my chest, the breath rushing from my lungs, I looked up at the figure in absolute panic. "Calm down," came a voice, breaking what seemed like an eternity of terror and silence. WH warehouse. "Who are you?" I asked, stammering in shock. "The name's Edward McGregor," he replied, stepping from the darkness to reveal himself. A guy of about 40 years with long brown shaggy hair, piercing green eyes and a pale-skinned complexion, Edward stood before me, blocking the way forward. "You've been separated from the rest of them, haven't you?" he asked. "I just got held up outside on the phone and lost my concentration, so you could say that," I replied with a laugh of realizing he wasn't some terrifying monster or ghostly apparition as first thought. "It happens all too often. You've missed the first 10 minutes of the tour," he said, "but it's your lucky day." "My lucky day?" I asked, bemused. "Yeah, your lucky day," he said again. "How though?" I replied, even more confused. The rain that flooded the graveyard above was just too much for the foundations of these old corridors to hold, and now all but you lay dead beneath the collapse of the ceiling. "Give my kind regards to your mum for being of great help," he said, walking off back into the dark room he came from. The Oneirophage. In the late 40s of the last century, after a decade of private research involving experiments with binaural beat brainwave frequencies, extrasensory cognition, and rare extracts of a South American vine, Dr. Tomas Rosner perfected a technique whereby one could actually intrude into the psyche and see another's thoughts. Despite having exhaustively documented his rigorous work, he could find no institution that would even offer to review it. Forced to sell his invention, he found by word of mouth among those through whom he procured narcotics a prospective buyer, the bête noire of an old New York family, Mr. John M. Dunn, a voyeuristic connoisseur of the supernatural and the obscene, who had squandered his idle youth in the great libraries of Paris, those catacombs of departed authors, rummaging among their hoards of dusty and obsolete works. A literary ghoul who disturbed with profane fingers the charnel houses of decayed philosophies. He readily agreed to the Dr.'s asking price without haggling, delighted at the prospect of exploring such a bizarre novelty. Once adept at the operation of the apparatus, Dunn paid Dr. Rosner off and under an assumed name rented a shabby house within view of Sing Sing prison. In the timeless night, while the convicts fitfully slept, with the aid of a set of stolen blueprints and his new mind-reading device, he raided their memories cell by cell at liberty to savor the forbidden thrill of thefts, molestations, moonlit homicides, in secret, without remorse or consequence. Within a month, the prisoners, telling each other about the nightmares from which they had all begun abruptly to awaken, discovered they shared striking similarities. First, processions of alligators and tortoises filed through a swamp crowded with faceless people and shrieking orchids. Next, a shadow man, at whom they looked directly but could never quite see, would watch them in utter stillness from an empty house while invisible hands probed behind their eyes as they had to stand naked, legs locked in place, unable to run away. Their compared descriptions of the house were identical, including its location just outside the walls. By mutual agreement, it was planned that the first of them to receive parole or be released would search this house out to find if it really existed, and investigate the source of their troubling dreams. A few days after being freed, their chosen spy was able to inform them with a smuggled message in code that not only was the house real, but he had broken into it at night and found a gaunt, mustached man in a silk smoking jacket seated bolt upright, head thrust back, both eyes gaping, mouth stuck open in a stiffened gasp, clenched hands gripping the arms of his chair, in front of a scientific machine. A handwritten journal on the desk told the whole story of his adventures, prying unconstrained through their psyches, plundering the haunted memories of criminal after criminal, seeking ever more shameful and audacious experiences until finally he wrote, on July 7th, of his overwhelming desire to witness telepathically the next execution in the prison's notorious electric chair. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and stay tuned for another episode tomorrow.